Welcome to Her Voice, a podcast hosted by Her Campus at UC Berkeley. I'm Abby, and I'll be one of the hosts for today's episode, along with my co-hosts, Raman and Neve. Today, we're going to be talking about returning to campus in the face of the pandemic and how we've been dealing with wellness.
All right, but before we get into that, Her Voice is a podcast produced by Her Campus at Berkeley, a chapter of Her Campus Media, which aims to support and empower female college students. We strive to create an inclusive community that empowers these individuals to achieve their goals.
This podcast is a great way for our members and guest speakers to tell their stories, give advice, answer some questions, and just have fun conversation about a topic of interest to us. Over the course of this season, you, our listeners, will have the chance to hear from a variety of speakers on topics such as beauty, professional development, and today's topic, wellness. Let's get into it.
As I said, my name's Abby. I'm a freshman, and I'm on the podcast team at Her Campus.
My name is Raman, and I'm also a member of the podcast team, also a freshman, and the podcast part, I guess, is a little bit obvious.
I'm Neve. I'm also part of the podcast team, and I'm also a freshman.
All right, so let's get started. This podcast is brought to you by solely freshmen who absolutely know everything about the Berkeley experience. Anyways, let's start off with some general questions. How does everyone feel about getting back to campus?
Well, obviously, it is our first time on campus, but just about getting back to actual in-person learning after, I know I was hybrid last year, but it was online for a lot of it, and most people were either fully or partially remote last year, and coming back to actual real-life classes has been really great. I find that I've been able to focus a lot more and just feel more motivated to do work. And I just feel that I'm able to be back in an actual intellectual environment, which is cool. And why we all came here.
Yeah, I was completely remote last year, so I'm really excited that I get to be in person. And I second what Abby said. It's a lot easier to be inspired by the faculty and people around you when you get to be in the same room as them. And it's also extremely motivating to be with your peers and feed off of their energy as well.
Yeah, totally. I remember last year, we all felt so bad for the seniors who had to experience their first year of college, in a virtual or half virtual hybrid environment. Because I feel like it just cuts out so much of the college experience, and right now with the rising of the Delta virus and everything, I'm still scared that, my college experience, my freshman experience is going to get ripped out from under me. And I guess that's a little fear that we got to deal with, but I am grateful for the amount of the amount of the ability to which we're able to maneuver around campus that we do, the amount that we do have. So
yeah, for sure. And we've been, I feel like it's something that comes up in a lot of conversations. It's how do we all feel? Are we all apprehensive at all about what's happening? And I think I've been at least approaching it with a healthy, cautious optimism where, of course, still wear my mask, obviously, still doing things to be safe. And obviously, stuff, as we learned the last year, stuff can always go horribly wrong. But I think it's important just to appreciate the freedom we have now and the ability to be pretty much normal again, and make the most of it now. And then if something happens, we know how to deal with it a little better.
Staying on your toes, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
ready to both catch hands and swing when you need to. Yeah, that's actually how I feel. I feel like the last year and a half has just been a fat gory boxing match, and you never know quite what's coming, and you're just waiting for that bell to ring. I feel like I'm always on my toes now. Kind of exhausting, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And it's sure. This added fear and step in everyday life where it's it would have been so easy before, but now even to just go to the dining hall, you have to fill out a whole form and have your badge and like go through all these extra systems that you wouldn't before, and it makes it extremely exhausting, like you said. So it's both motivating and tiring, but exciting.
I know. And it's like, it's almost unfair that I have like a proof of my vaccination on my phone screenshotted at a moment's notice, you know? I'm so extremely prepared, and I hate that I'm always so extremely prepared because it means that it's necessary, you know? And yeah.
How have you guys just been feeling generally safety wise? Because I was a little bit nervous about like how I'd feel when I got here, but I with like the vaccine mandates and the daily screeners, everyone wearing masks in classes and even outside, I have felt for the most part pretty safe and like not constantly anxious, which is good as a departure from like the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like when I first got here, I was like, I'm living in a triple in a communal bathroom. Like, how are we gonna have this under control? And thankfully, been a lot more comforting than I thought it would be to just be around people. And we all like share this fear and have anxiety around it too. So I think as a collective, we all know that we have to do what we need to do in order to stay safe.
Right. And everyone's getting tested and I feel that the student body, obviously, you know, there are outliers everywhere, but like is being generally pretty responsible with stuff, at least like in day-to-day life. Which is good, which is great. Go Joe.
Oh yeah, no, totally. It's like definitely what I would expect from, you know, the Forbes top university. I know. That's as soon as that article came out, my dad sent it to me and he was like totally feeling himself, and he was like he was so happy and he was like so proud, and I was like, yes.
It gave everyone a collective boost.
I reached the Indian ambition of making my parents proud. But I mean, okay, so here's the thing about like a lot of the requirements is sometimes they don't make a lot of sense to me. And there's like a somewhat of a disparity between security concerns. I'll elaborate a little bit. So in the beginning, when we first moved in, like when we had to go to the dining halls, we just walked in and we like, you know, signed, like, you know, tapped our meal, like their card, Cal One card, sorry, and you know, took a meal swipe and we went in, we ate, we came out, blah blah blah. And now, you know, it's requiring the symptom screener and everything, and I think that's great. You know, I think it's a great way to stay on top of things and make sure that the students who are entering these communal spaces are healthy and safe. And then I went to go get sushi, and I was getting takeout. I wasn't, because I mean, I'm antisocial. I don't like being in public spaces for too long. So I was just planning on grabbing my sushi, going back, sitting in my dorm, watching YouTube videos, and like, you know, eating. And so I went there to like grab some food, and the lady said I can't even wait inside the building unless I had proof of vaccination. And I'm not about to stand outside in Berkeley cold, you know. I'm okay. I mean, it depends, I guess, because Berkeley can go from cold to hot and like, but that's not the point. But then I had to take a midterm on Thursday, and we were all like 100, maybe more of us, crammed into this tiny little lecture hall, and there was like barely enough elbow space between us, and the air was greasy and it was hot and it was stuffy, and we were all sweating and sweating because of the heat, and also because we were taking a midterm and it was like, you know, nauseating and terrifying. But like the whole time, all I could think of was, where is the safety now? Did it disappear? Like where is all the precaution that, you know, Berkeley like insisted upon? And I mean, again, I'm not like saying anything bad about it. I mean, I am saying something bad about it, but I'm not like trashing on it. I'm just saying like this disparity was just kind of, I guess, alarming in a sense.
No, some of it is definitely like, some of it is, and I think like generally, you know, if everyone's indoors, vaccinated and wearing a mask, like the risk is still pretty super low, but it is just like a matter of like the fact that we're supposed to wear masks walking down the hall to go to the bathroom, and we're like, a lot of us are like crammed into a certain space like that. And obviously you can't you can't change, like people have to take their midterms, like some things they just like kind of assess the risk and go ahead with. And I think, I mean, so far they've been all right judgment calls, and there hasn't been any like big issue with it. It's just a little bit frustrating to kind of to have it's always a different expectation. And like you were saying about getting sushi, like private businesses compared to how the university is running, like it's always just like a little bit different of like what you're expected to do and what you expect the situation to be, which can be really like disorientating and frustrating, for sure. And yeah, that's just something that like I've noticed this year as well.
Yeah, and I think that also adds on to the like stress kind of around this return after COVID, is because you don't really know when you should do what. Like there's so much disparity between these different situations that it's like, am I allowed to be close to people right now or not? Or like, yeah. So I think it's one thing to be aware, but it's also like kind of difficult when there's not a set, like, this is when you should be doing this. Like that's consistent among everything.
Right. And that's something I was thinking about when I was like registering for classes, which, oh boy, what a nightmare that was.
Yeah.
But something I was thinking about, I was looking at the format and I noticed that there were, I guess, more classes than I expected where professors chose to make them virtual the whole year. And those were like mostly for like the big, huge lecture classes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess over the summer, especially because, you know, things were even better over the summer, it was kind of a nice little vacation from the pandemic almost, in a lot of, like, at least where I was. That was just something that kind of surprised me. And so I'm just wondering, like, how have you felt about the format of your classes this year? Are they mostly in person, mostly virtual? Is that frustrating at all? Is that better? Do you prefer either one? Just kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say mine are kind of like half and half. Like you were saying, all the big lectures are virtual, and then our like smaller discussion groups are in person. And like I have two smaller classes with only like 15 people, which are in person. So it's a good balance. And a part of me is kind of frustrated. Like I wish it was all in person because it just helps me learn better. But at the same time, I'm like, these are massive lectures with hundreds of people. So like, would it really make that big of a difference if I was sitting in the back seat in a lecture hall versus watching on my computer? So I think it's a good balance, but it's definitely an adjustment that as a student with your mindset of like, oh, I'm watching a lecture versus I'm participating in a class has become very separate, I think.
I mean, okay. In the high school where I came from, I was a bit of a weirdo. I was always like seen as like I was like a Ravenclaw in every sense of the word. I acted like a bratty know-it-all, honestly, and I was always in the forefront of the class, and I was always like, "Hey, yo, I know the answer." And I guess in a sense, I always had the spotlight. Yeah, I know. I was that kid. It was a nightmare. I was basically hated. I guess that was really me in middle school, and I learned to like tone it down in high school. But like in college, I guess it's just like different, especially in Berkeley, because everyone is like that. You know, everyone is like bright and brilliant and vivacious. And I guess it's just like an extremely, like a completely different tier of competitiveness, you know? And I guess in like when I'm like so distracted by that I'm not even noticing like the in-person and virtual thing. I'm just noticing how everyone else is just so freaking brilliant, you know? And that's honestly like where my mind has been. And you know, when everyone is so engaging, it's almost like I can't even tell the difference between a virtual and in-person class, because again, everyone is so engaging, everyone is so present, everyone is so there. They're like it takes me like 15 minutes to answer a question, another kid answers it in 15 seconds, you know? Like I'm just seeing, it's like, it's brilliant. And when you have that kind of a situation, like you really can't feel bad about being in a virtual environment.
Yeah. The only thing I think I agree. Like, most of my classes are in person actually, which is very lucky. And I have definitely felt that a lot in my in-person classes, and just like being surrounded by so many people who are just so into the content and like so, like you said, just brilliant and like participating. It's really like great to be surrounded by. I am my one virtual class is asynchronous. So you completely take away the class aspect of it. Which I actually do know. I'm an introduction to climate change, which I feel like everyone is in. Like, I know so many people who are in this one asynchronous class. So it's been great. Like, we've been talking to each other. But I feel that with like the asynchronous format is the only thing that's like really different, because like as you said, like virtual and in-person classes, they can kind of feel almost the same in a lot of ways, but when you're just being talked at, it can feel a little bit different. And so something that I've found super helpful is never ever doing the lecture in my room because I know it'll just feel like kind of like I'm watching just like a YouTube video and not like I'm actually in a class. So I've been doing all of the lectures outside in the library or at a cafe or just somewhere that's not this space, and somewhere where I'm actually going to be forced to like feel that I am in a different environment and that I'm watching this and that I'm learning this, and it's just a new way to do a class. And I don't hate doing it that way. I find the lectures really engaging, and it's really nice to be able to go at your own pace in a lot of ways. It's just very different from, you know, how we've done 13 years of school already.
Yeah. And also I think with the asynchronous format, or even like on Zoom when there are like 600 people in a meeting, it kind of brings this anonymous feel to it. Basically, there's a lot of people and they're all really brilliant, and in this format it's hard to create relationships if you aren't having a conversation with someone like face to face.
I think like something that I was really excited to get back to this year with actual classes was just being able to talk to people like before and after, and make those connect, because those are really important. You know, we're all freshmen, we're all trying to meet everybody. Just meeting people and like being able to talk to them in a class or before or after, or make a connection with someone so you can do your homework together, or talk about ideas for an essay. Just those connections I feel are kind of mending again and being able to happen again, which is definitely like, it alleviates like a lot of my anxiety, because like if I'm the only person I know in this class, I don't really know what's going on, then I feel like that's like solely on me. And I'm so much more lost and confused than if I have someone who I can DM on Instagram or like ask after the lecture, like, hey, what just happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny that you bring that up, because I actually don't have any like social media. I shouldn't say any. I don't have most social medias. I don't have Instagram, I don't have Snapchat, so it's actually really hard for me to connect with people my age. That sounds just very like, that's like a very old person thing to say, but like again, it's very hard for me to like connect with fellow students and fellow peers, because everyone mainly communicates through Instagram. And I have like a goal to never get an account and like, survive my years as a boomer. But I guess it's just a different outlook, I guess, in a sense, because like I'm living a social life without a huge aspect of the social life, and that makes it a little bit more challenging, but also a little bit more fun, I must say. I'm not saying y'all should like, ditch your Instagram and Snapchat accounts, but you totally should. But what? No, anyways.
No, but yeah, like that can be super healthy. Like, mad respect. I'm too addicted to my phone, honestly. But yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting perspective, especially like because the way we've been meeting people, I feel like since we're all brand new, is just like, oh, hey, what's your Instagram? What's your Snapchat? And then you kind of can communicate from there. And then you get someone's number and can actually talk to them. But yeah, just missing that middle step, I think would be definitely an adjustment. But I mean, you seem to be doing good. So
well, I put up a very good facade, but thank you.
And I also think with COVID, it's gotten extra hard to connect with people like right away and stay connected. And I think I've happened to rely on social media a little too much in order to foster those connections instead of having conversations. Yeah. So I think in coming back after COVID, it's hard to transition back from, oh, I can actually hang out with you. I don't have to like FaceTime you or like see what you're doing. And yeah. And I think our next question is like, with these relationships and coming to college and COVID, have you maintained the relationships and connections you had back home, and how so, and how's it going with that?
Yeah, I think it was interesting, like coming from, you know, a year of like you said, like just FaceTiming your friends. And so I feel like we all got better at talking over FaceTime, which is good because like obviously it's not the same as a real in-person conversation, but I think we all got a little bit used to it, which I think was actually really important in coming to college. Now I can't see my friends on the East Coast. I do have to FaceTime them all the time. But yeah, I've just been doing, like, I feel that most people have FaceTiming, phone calls, just like checking in and trying to connect. And it's just weird because, you know, in a COVID year, that was all we had. And now we have like, we're able to do social things here with our new friends and people we've met here. But we still have the technology, thankfully, to like actually keep in touch and be able to talk to each other.
Yeah, I have a friend who goes to UCSD, and I video chatted him via Discord, which I do have. I know. I think last week I video chatted him, and I waited for one of his roommates to come back, and then I fully embarrassed him in front of his roommate. You know, quality stuff. It's just fun, I guess. Like it feels like, I mean, again, a lot of us come from like, you know, kind of far away. I personally came from SoCal, and so it's quite a bit of distance, and he went further south, and so like even more distance. And so I guess in a sense, it's like really hard to act as if that distance isn't there. And I mean, I'm not saying that we should, but I'm saying that it's, I guess like a lot of us expected for our friendships in high school to just die off. And I've been like very committed. I'm just like, no, these beautiful things cannot die. And I think a lot of people have been too. It's very difficult. And honestly, kudos to anyone who's listening who's actually been actively trying. Because yes, good job. We can be friends, best friends.
Yeah, I like what you said about the distance, and like it really is a way to keep people close. And with COVID, even though my friends were only like 5 minutes away via bus ride or whatever, I still had I have the same interactions with them now as I did then. Like, even though now we're across the country from each other, it's been a year and a half of just FaceTiming. So it's kind of a continuation of the same social interactions. And
so it's kind of been a good thing. It's not as much as an adjustment. I mean, it still is. I have to adjust to it, the time zone, because I'm from Boston. So I'll call my friends at like 11 p.m. and I'm like, oh, you are asleep. That does make sense.
Yeah. And that also makes it hard in scheduling, like, and maintaining these relationships. It's like, oh, I don't want to bother you. I mean, like, you're probably really busy at college, as I feel really overwhelmed and busy, and there's always stuff to do and people to see and places to go. And it's like, I don't want to take that away from one of my friends who might be like out doing something, but I don't know right now. So
I think this is this is one of many times where I'm very grateful to have been an immigrant because I'm not an immigrant. I'm a first generation American. My parents immigrated here from India. And so basically, we're a nuclear family here with like a large extended family in India. And at least like 4 times a week, we have to call them and talk to them. And so we've got like that time zone thing kind of down, We know when to call, we know how to communicate. Like my mind, like half of my head is hardwired to like, PST, and the other half is hardwired to like my cousin in India, like that's the thing, it's really helpful, I guess. And I mean, honestly, I don't want to go down, I don't want to start off on a tangent, but the immigrant experience is actually very helpful in a lot of like, there's a lot of parallels, for me at least, because I'm a first generation. I can't speak for anyone else, but yeah.
And then also in this relationship building, how have you guys been building new connections here in this awkward format? It's yeah.
I think one of the reasons I'm so grateful to be on campus this year is that like living in the dorm just automatically brings you so many people that like there are lots of people to interact with. Like I shout out to my floor. I love my floor mates. So it's been really great. And like even just I think most of us live in triples. which has its own challenges, but I think even just like always having two people that you see all the time, and just being in a way that I never was in high school, because I would go to school, I'd go do my extracurriculars, hang out with my friends, but then I'd come home and not be with people all the time. That difference, and then having that be my reality, and then having like a year and a half of I don't do anything or see anybody. And then finally, like this summer, coming into college, of which I'm around everybody all the time. I think COVID did make that transition maybe a little bit harder. But yeah, I think it's just been being around people again, as kind of weird as that is to say, it's just like helped me make a lot of relationships and feel that I was alone.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, also it was helpful that we had orientation in person where you got to meet a bunch of people, and my whole group is on my floor. So it's also really fun to be able to just go and do anything at any time together and not have to worry about setting something up from a distance. Yeah, I think just being in person has helped a lot. Seeing people's faces every day, even though it might be awkward when you're brushing your teeth and you don't know whether to start a conversation or not. But it's so much fun to just live with people who you can have fun with.
Oh yeah, for sure. Actually, I made most of my friends through GBO. It was really, really helpful for me because, like, I mean, I get really awkward. I mean, I think this is actually the case for most people. I think we tend to get really awkward and like very flustered when trying to make new friends. I don't think it's just me. I refuse to believe it's just me.
No, not just
yeah, exactly. And so like my GBO group was like just full of like very adorable. I shouldn't be saying this because again, they're like my age and older, but like still it was just like a bunch of adorable, quirky teenagers, like awkwardly trying to like, do the friendship, and I thought it was just really cute and it was very wholesome. And so like the entire GBO experience was just very fun for me. I think the events were a little bit chaotic and could have been maybe a little bit better put together. But again, I mean, other than that, I don't really have any complaints. It was a very wholesome experience and I absolutely loved it. It was, yeah, I remember like GBO was the only thing that kept me from like not like sobbing and like homesickness, because I had like I had all of these like friends and like a support group to, they were kind of like my safety net, which was really nice to have.
Yeah, I'm very glad that we got an actual orientation this year, because I I know a lot of sophomores who are like, oh, like you guys know campus better than we do because you got an orientation. You're all of your like your classes are in person, and ours weren't last year. And I was like, I can't imagine what that must have been like, feeling kind of like you were on campus but also new to campus. Sorry, sophomores. Apologies.
Yeah, honestly, mad respect to you. Good job. Much respect to you and your family.
Yes.
Yeah, I like my GVO leaders. Like, okay, so first day of GVO, me and my group, or like half of the group, got super lost, and this was a great bonding experience. And this was like a bonding experience in GVO that wasn't meant to be a bonding experience, and was just a happy accident. Like, we got separated from them, and we asked them, oh, we're here. Where are you? And they didn't know where they were or where we were. And they didn't know how to like, because I mean, okay. One of them was a sophomore and one of them was a junior, and both of them had been away from campus for a year and a half. So I mean, it's a little hard to expect them to know like and have memorized, the entire layout of campus, So it was very interesting. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah. And also there was another question, which is, has the pandemic affected your social battery? Like, do you feel like now you want to be more social because you've been deprived of social interactions for so long, or has it made you realize like the value of taking time for yourself and not being with other people?
I think it's been a bit of both. Because like obviously after a year of being isolated from people, it was very exciting to like do things again and see people again. But I do think that like, I even think without COVID, this would probably be the case, but even more so, just like sometimes just taking a night where you don't go out, where you don't see a lot of people, just where you have a night to yourself, if that's possible, again, when we live with two other people. And like everyone just all around constantly. Just taking a night, kind of like a self-care, even if it's a few hours, even if it's between classes, just having some time where you're doing something just for yourself has been super helpful.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so if I was gonna put this in terms of like money, because like I mean that's how I conceptualize things, capitalistic society and everything. But let's say that I have $50, and these $50 represents how much social energy I have for the day. Before the pandemic, I had $50. I had $50 that I could spend with my friends, going out to like studying, going out to like cafes and stuff, this, whatever, anything that involves social interaction. And then the pandemic happened and my 50 became 40 and then became 30. And now I'm at like a solid 25. And I have half the amount of capacity to deal with people. And I'm like slowly building it up again. But for me, it's just like, I feel like the pandemic really decreased my maximum social capacity. I really can't deal with people for more than like 2 hours like straight. Like I was out for dinner with like my friends last night and they're wonderful. I love them. They're amazing. They're fantastic people, but I can't talk to them for more than 2 hours or else I feel like I'm losing my mind. And that's like, it feels so wrong to say because again, they're amazing. I love them. But like, I just feel so drained at the end of it and I'm like tired and exhausted and it takes me a while to like recuperate. And like, honestly, I'm a little mad at the pandemic for doing that to me. I mean, there's plenty of reasons to be mad at the pandemic, but like, I'm like such an extrovert and I feel like I've just been like dimmed, like so much of me has just been like exhausted and crippled. And yeah, I have beef with the pandemic. So
yeah, I think it's been really conflicting for me personally because I'm so excited. I'm like, I want to hang out with you all the time, I want to take advantage of this time I have. But then I feel like also living in dorms after being so isolated for so long, literally everything you do is a social interaction. It feels like I just want to go to the bathroom, but instead it's become a social interaction. Or like I just want to take a nap, but then I have to ask my roommate to turn off the light or something like that. So I think it's been kind of hard to find a place where you can recharge on your own when you're living in a place with over 100 other freshmen. So I think I've really turned to like just when I'm walking to class, even though I usually am running a little late, I try and just take the moment of like, yeah, I'm outside walking. I'm not worrying about other people. I'm just taking this time for myself. And that's been really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's all the questions and answers we have for today. So I hope you were able to learn something new in this episode. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.